Now, recently, the UK's Press Gazette uncovered the inner workings of Synapse. It's an AI tool sold by Lithuania-based PR agency Wellstone PR. Now, Synapse is designed to automatically respond to journalist requests for expert comments on platforms like Hero, help a reporter out, Quoted, and Response Source. That's one thing that it does, and I've got a problem with that. By pulling information from books, podcasts, and reports, the tool also generates personal-sounding email pitches. So it creates quotes in response to a reporter's query, and it can create pitches, sometimes even inventing anecdotes with minimal human input. Wellstone claims that one PR editor using Synapse can handle the workload of 5 people, writing 20 pitches an hour. It's not about the quality, it's about the quantity, right? It's a numbers game. Just flood the area and something's liable to stick. This might sound like an efficiency win for agencies. It raises serious questions, Farzana, about ethics, trust, and the future of PR and where we're going here.
Now, Doug, we are going to dive into this. I was absolutely shocked when I read the article on Press Gazette. Now, we're going to break it down into 3 different areas. Well, number 1, we're going to talk about efficiency meets ethical risk. That's going to be a dilemma that in the PR industry we're going to face more and more. Number 2, we're going to discuss how are journalists going to respond to this, because this is just the start. And then the third, we're going to talk about the future of PR. So is the human-centered nature of PR, is it going to be lost to automation? So let's dive in first of all. Efficiency meets ethical risk. So in terms of efficiency, wow. And also in terms of cost saving, when you're running an agency, instead of having a team of 5 crafting pitches, getting approvals and editing and all of that, you've got this machine that just churns out pitches. And yes, it is super efficient, which means it's going to cost, next to nothing compared to the cost of humans in order to hire them and have space for them, office space, and all the auxiliary costs involved in hiring humans. But the ethics, I can see why agencies are drawn to using tools in terms of cost savings and speed and getting the media coverage. But what about the ethics? You're a former journalist, Doug. Tell me about how it would feel for you to actually know if a PR was using, because how would you feel?
I was a journalist for 12 of my 15 years in broadcasting, radio DJ, and then I started drinking the Kool-Aid and became a journalist for newspaper, radio, and ultimately in television. And there's kind of this sacred, as a journal, there's this sacred, we are soldiers for democracy. Mm-hmm. And that's never gone away. And in its purest form, it's actually quite beautiful that there's no other entity whose design, whether you think the media is behaving this way is a whole other question. But by its design, it's supposed to be the watchdog. Mm-hmm. You can't buy it. You cannot win favor from it by spending more money. In theory, it simply holds those to account who need to be accountable. So that's the sacred territory of a journalist. If I knew I was getting pitches from AI, I would probably inherently dislike it, because as a journalist, I tend to lean more toward the popular opinion. I would default to, I don't like AI taking jobs away from other people, but that's probably the only reason. Because logically, AI is going to, as it says, scrape from podcasts, books, TV appearances, websites, blah, 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 and probably create a pretty dang good pitch, a pretty darn effective pitch.
Doug, how does it work, though? So how does Synapse works? It's a piece of kit.
It'll make pitches. So let's say an agency is hired to pitch Farzana Baduel to be interviewed in your newspaper talking about public relations. What the AI tool would likely do is scrape that editor or that reporter and understand what their interests are. Something I preach to my media training clients: before you make a pitch, what else has this reporter covered? Do they lean left? Do they lean right? Do they talk a lot about hot dogs? Do they have a daughter? Are they married? Where do they live? Well, how
sounds
do you
a
know
bit creepy.
Reporter?
Yeah.
Every breath you take, I'm watching you. Yeah. But the AI can do some of that, and probably really effectively, because journalists can post a lot, right? So on the pitch side, I wouldn't like it as a journo, but there, there's a discussion and an argument, and I can't label it unethical. But if AI, the other thing Synapse is doing is when
Hmm.
I, as a journalist, say, let's say I post on Harrow, on help a reporter out. Look, I need an expert on this peanut butter and jam.
Hmm.
And if suddenly AI is able to generate a quote and say, I have this expertise. My name is Jerome Jones. I'm a peanut butter and jam expert. And here's the real secret to it. And it makes up a quote. That's completely fabricated. No one's actually being quoted. There is no Jerome Jones.
So they're just
And
making
that's
the experts up.
they're just making that crap up. And even if they're
I
not
mean,
making
that's
up the
terrible.
expert, if they're just making up the quote to tailor it to the ask,
Hmm.
unethical.
That
In my
is
in
terrible.
IMO, unethical. Yeah.
I mean,
So
let's
that's where
face
I
it,
sit.
journalists have a pretty low trust in PRs anyway, let alone
Do.
in this tool that is making things up and making a person up completely. I mean, that is deception of the highest order. I mean, I'm surprised that I'd like to know who's using this tool, on what level
Mm.
do they think it's acceptable? I just don't understand. I'm absolutely shocked because it's one thing using automation to sort of create pictures and, using ChatGPT to create research and all that. But another thing to actually make up an expert in order to, and then, I mean, it's like this whole new world of post truth. I mean, does it even matter anymore? Do people have to be real? I mean, it's extraordinary.
Brett Farmelo, the CEO at Help a Reporter Out, was
Hmm.
on our last episode, and he mentioned that what he sees is journos are surrounded like 7 to 1, 14 to 1 by PR people, you and me. So journalists already feel completely surrounded. Now there's AI out there. Can you imagine the attack that feels like to a journalist who feels they are a soldier for democracy? They feel like democracy is under attack. That's how I think reporters would feel about this.
It feels like they're under siege, really. When I think
Mm.
about it, um, these journalists, they already are underpaid, under-resourced, over-reliant upon PRs, and already we outnumber them. And then on top of that, we're now using AI to supercharge, and they don't have the resources to fact check like they used to and go back. And they assume that the PRs sending them the information that the experts are real. And here we have a tool that PR agencies are using that are making up the experts on the fly. What I don't get, obviously, I'm the president-elect for the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, and we have a code of conduct. Also, our other industry body in the UK, PRCA, have a code of conduct. The problem is that our industry is not regulated. And so, therefore, PR agencies don't have to sign up to a code of conduct and therefore can operate outside. And when they operate outside, this is what we see. So, should we be regulated? That's a whole other chapter.
That's a whole other. So on to our chapter 2, how journalists will respond to this. I think they're going to put up walls and defense mechanisms,
Hmm.
abandoning open calls, relying only on closed, vetted expert networks. So you can only get into the network if they know who Farzana is and you've passed the screening. So there are already platforms like Sourcey that do this, and they push for video verified experts to cut through the noise because they're just getting flooded with all of this noise. If a journalist was willing to accept pure AI input, it would just use ChatGPT themselves. They don't
Completely.
need to try to get a quote.
Doug, you mentioned Sourcey. What is Sourcey? I've never heard of them.
Sourcey is just one of the closed networks that journalists can use where it'll video verify. It'll go on with Farzana, have a conversation with Farzana, a live person, say, okay, Farzana, yes, you are certified. You can join this closed network. So that's one example of where journalists are starting to turn. I think you just see more and more of it. So it creates a business opportunity for a smart software entrepreneur,
I mean, it's hard
right?
enough to get hold of journalists nowadays because, it's not as if they're waiting around the landlines of the newsroom. And, and if you manage to get their mobile phone, I mean, that's really, you have to be a part of this vetted inner circle in order to be able to communicate to them. And of course, they get hundreds and hundreds of emails. And so, in a way, we're shooting ourselves in the foot by actually just firing these sort of AI driven pitches full of fake experts. Is yeah, I completely agree. I think journalists are just going to sort of draw up the bridges and say, right, you guys can't be trusted. I was going to say, I mean, should we as an industry be looking to try and hold people to account, because it will affect the rest of us? Even, let's say, someone like myself, I would never dream of doing this. But if there are people operating in our industry, should we be able to, be able to sort of say to the people, like, you're destroying it for the rest of us, so just don't do it. But there's no, there's no sort of you know, industry body that can do it if they're not a member.
For now, yeah. And the more fake noise that we send out there, the more the real voices get
Hmm.
drowned out. And it's like anything else, like misinformation, the fake noise will win. It will win because it has AI that's stirring it up. So then I start thinking, we have genuine small town experts, whatever small town looks like. That could be a small group, it could be a niche expertise. And you're going to have people who've earned their personal brand is tied to this, and they are a known brand in this niche expertise. I
Hmm.
think you start to see more and more that personal branding, and we're already leading this way, more and more personal branding becomes that much more important. You can trust me. I'm real. If my name's connected to it on this little piece of knowledge, it's real and it's authentic. And I think more and more journalists are going to turn to those folks.
Back in the day when Edward Bernays was kicking around and reinventing PR for the modern age,
Yeah.
they started working on something called astroturfing. So creating these fake illusionary environments for journalists on press trips going off to South America and pretending there was
Gosh.
communism when there wasn't. So what you're actually seeing is you're seeing the full circle of astroturfing by using, but now we've got AI producing these fake people with their fake expert comments in order to bolster a client brand. And also, what about the reputation of the brand? I mean, if this is found out, it will harm the brand that they are ironically trying to build trust with its stakeholders.
Yeah, I definitely. So not to pick on a brand, but I'm off the top of my head. If Kool-Aid was caught generating fake quotes, I don't know the
Hmm.
fake the AI pitches. I don't see them as fake. I see them
No.
as AI. Maybe I'm
Hmm.
naive, but the
Hmm.
fake quotes is what gets under my skin. If that was attributed to Kool-Aid, I think that would have a damaging impact on Kool-Aid overall. What else about the product is fake? What else about everything they've said and done over the last 20 years, well before AI, is fake? And how can I trust this brand in an age where authenticity is that magic buzz phrase that especially Gen Z and the millennials, they want to know that authenticity is a part of your brand, your organizational
Hmm.
brand, and your personal brand. So if you're caught doing this, I'd like to think it's extremely damaging. And I'm speaking from my mind as a journalist back in the 90s, right? Because I got out of journalism and went into PR in the early 2000s. I think journalism has changed, but I think that soldier for democracy thing, I think
Hmm.
that remains intact. It just feels that much more scattered. Another complicator, Farzana, is that in the world of journos, they only want they only have so much ability to give PR people crap for what
Hmm.
we build because they know most of them someday they probably want to become us.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
probably want to become part of the PR rank as they get into their 30s and or maybe their 40s. The majority of them end up going that way to make a better living to raise their families.
It's
And so
true.
they
I mean,
only want to give us so
yeah.
much flack.
Yeah, it's true. And I must say that I've seen journalists for the last 15 years coming into the PR industry. I've worked with them as they've made the transition. And I do think they've improved our profession because they brought with them that sense of purpose, that sense of higher
Mm-hmm.
order, that sense of, ensuring that what we put out, is it authentic? Is it true? Are we misleading? And so I think they've actually brought in a much more sort of like a mission orientated approach to public relations. Now, one thing I wanted to say is if you look at Nike, Nike got a lot of flack for their supply chain because of the
Mm-hmm.
sweatshops and the child labor. And it wasn't enough to say, well, it's not our organization. It was outside of our entity. We're not responsible for supply chain. And actually, what happened was the stakeholders were like, you are damn well responsible for your supply chain because the clout
Right.
you have. But likewise, brands and organizations, they can't turn around and say, well, actually, it wasn't us. It was our PR agency. So maybe what you'll start seeing is brands and organizations taking a much tighter rein in their agencies to find out what AI tools they're using, what ethics do they have, what AI policy do they have? Because of course, when you look at the whole spat with Blake Lively and her co-star, you had these PR agencies sort of employing the dark arts, and it reflected badly upon the principals. So it's not so you can't just blame your PR agency. Actually, you have to have that rigor with AI to find out are your sort of PRs representing you in an ethical way? Are they using AI in an ethical way? And maybe that's a new sort of paradigm shift between clients and agencies that they need to be a little bit more hands-on in verifying how their PRs are operating, what tools they're
Yeah, don't blame
using.
your subcontractor. There's no tolerance for blaming the subcontractor anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that
Now,
that takes us to chapter 3, the future
mhm.
of PR and how PR teams can use AI responsibly. Fact is, we're going to use it in some cases as a replacement for things, and I suppose that's a whole like writers. Sorry, I have a lot of friends that are good writers, and I'm hearing from them because jobs are either in jeopardy or jobs have been lost and are hard to win back, and it's sad, but AI is replacing some of that. Where do we are we still a human centered job function? Are we a blend of human oversight to AI production?
check there there's so many permutations. I mean, first of all,
Mm.
in the UK, we've got this Make It Fair campaign. So we've got the news agencies that are saying to the government, listen, can you please ensure that these AI tools that are scraping our content will pay us something? And if they don't, then the news agencies can actually just sort of prevent the AI tools from scraping. And then that means the AI tools will start scraping content from more lower quality sites. And then that gives rise to information and disinformation. And so, for us from a PR perspective, all of these sort of, even the way that the UK government will regulate these AI tools would have an impact upon how we operate. Now, are we going to be more human centered or lost to automation? I think probably a bit of both. I think I met somebody yesterday and he said to me he's creating this new AI first agency. It's a PR
Mm.
agency in your pocket. You can, and there's like little sections of award submissions and speaker pitches and writing a pitch for a client and tone of voice. And, I was absolutely stunned. And he's building this and he's been building it for the last 2 years. And so, and his sort of prediction to me was actually agencies are no longer going to be relied upon for tactical execution because that's going to be moved in-house because they're going to have these tools at their fingertips. But what PR agencies are going to be sort of used for is more sort of strategic and more sort of relationship orientated, where agencies have this great vantage point of working across multiple clients and they can bring learnings that in-house don't. So you can start seeing shifts between agency and in-house, not agencies aren't going to sort of dissipate overnight, but the work that they're going to do perhaps moves from tactical to strategic, and maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Good. Yeah. No, that sounds actually really promising.
Hmm.
The perfect model is probably that AI is doing a lot of the work, but that it has human oversight. And that sounds kind of utopian. The problem with that concept is we don't trust people. If you look
Hmm.
at the Edelman Trust Barometer, we don't trust journalists. We don't trust business leaders. We don't trust PR people. They're just spin doctors. We don't trust people. We do trust machines.
Hmm.
So that whole idea of human oversight to AI work, that's not in our everyday habit. We say it, and we think it as a point, we don't live and breathe it. We actually trust the machines more than we trust the people, unless we know the people. And then I think someone is just like me, or is someone I understand why they are just like themselves. So again, that takes me back to how important personal branding is going to be, and organizational branding for sure, but the humans within the organization, the ones that I can look to for leadership to understand what matters to them personally. And that's why the astronomer CEO fallout was so dramatic. You had this rich cat committing one of the ultimate sins, having an affair and getting embarrassed on the big screen and looking like an idiot, while the two of them look like idiots doing it. That's why that cashed so well around the world, because this is someone who we're supposed to trust, and I have no trust in you whatsoever, and therefore I laugh at you. And I feel for the families, but that's why it became such a strong meme.
I think what drove that story was that it was human centered. It was centered around our fallibility as humans. The fact that it doesn't matter if you're a leader or a janitor of an organization, we have these human frailties. We have these Achilles heels. We are not perfect. And that's when we're fascinated by each other. We were fascinated by his fall from grace, because that could have been us. That probably was us in a different time, in a different way, because people fail. And I think what's really interesting about the North American culture, perhaps compared to the British culture, is I love the way the North American culture is, they watch somebody fail spectacularly, like a Martha Stewart, and then they give room for them to learn, compose themselves, and then get back in the ring. Whereas I think
we love a comeback, right?
Yeah. Trump, for instance, great comeback in the White House. And in the UK, we're a little bit sniffy. We're a little bit like, oh, yes, but, in 1984, they said that, whereas, and that's what I love, actually. I love that culture. And I don't know, I mean, I know it's an American culture. Is it also a Canadian culture thing that,
Yeah,
they love the comeback kid? Yeah.
I
So
hate to say America Junior, but
yeah, it is.
I think
I love it.
we like a good comeback story. If someone's got the fortitude to get knocked down, it's a boxing idiom. It's not how hard you get knocked down, it's how quick you get up, right? And I think a lot of people subscribe to that story. So,
well, I think, human-centered or lost to automation, I think time will tell, and we are going to chart the transformation of our industry and see where it takes us.
Yeah, and tools like Synapse, really, these are a mirror. These reflect back on who we are. These aren't just evil tools that are out there. It took a human to write the code. It took a human to say, let's sell it. And it takes humans to buy into it. And we, as the bigger society, it takes humans to accept that this is in our society. If we're all okay with that, don't blame Synapse. Blame ourselves, right? Just look in the mirror for the fault.
It's up to us to set boundaries for our profession. And that's what makes me think about about countries like Zambia, who are regulating the PR industry, because they are aware of the impact of the work that we do without any guardrails whatsoever.
Right.
And this is a
Right.
clear example of what goes wrong without any guardrails in place.